Good morning, Veritas. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Hope everybody is doing all right. Let's get started with our classroom assignment for today, our Google Classroom assignment. Here's the first 3 problems that we will go over like usual for today's date. So make sure that you have done these 3 problems first. You have an answer right now, and now we're going to go over the correct way to solve it. All right, so number 1 says Johanna spent a total of $3,287 on clothing last year. She went shopping 1 time per month and spent the same amount of money each time she went. How much did she spend each time she went shopping? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so that's something we haven't seen in a while. We have to then round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So we got to be very careful at the end to make sure that we did that. Okay, so now I got my pen. I'm going to go and I'm going to annotate as I go through it the second time. Okay, Johanna spent a total of $3,287 on clothing last year. That's the total amount that she spent. She went shopping 1 time per month. So that's an important piece of information. She only went shopping 1 time per month and spent the same amount of money each time. That's important. She spent the same amount of money each time. So my job right now is to decide what operation am I going to use in order to solve this problem. And I can't just guess. I need to make sure that if I say division, that it's correct. If I say multiplication, I need to make sure that it's correct. So I got to be really careful right now as I'm reading this to make sure I'm choosing the right operation. Okay, how much money did she spend each time she went shopping? So I just wrote a couple of notes here for what we just read. She spent $3,287 on clothing last year. She spent the same amount each month. And she went once per month. 1 time per month. Okay, so an important piece of information that this problem doesn't give you that you are expected to know is how many months there are in a year. Because she spent $3,287 last year, she spent the same amount each month, and she went shopping 1 time per month. So how many times did she go shopping last year? There's 12 months in a year, so she went shopping 12 times. All right, so that's important. Do you have that information? Did you understand? Did you make that connection that there are 12 months in a year? So if she went once per month, and she spent the same amount each time, then she actually went shopping 12 times. So we are making 12 equal groups out of the total amount of money that she spent. So if we're making 12 equal groups, we're going to be taking $3,287 and we're dividing it into 12 equal groups. The 12 months where she spent an equal amount each time. So I could draw 12 months. These circles are just going to be groups that represent months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oop, it's hard to draw. 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12 equal groups that we're making. Each of them represents a month, and we're going to divide $3,287 into those 12 equal groups because she spent the same amount each time. Okay, then very carefully at the end, we need to make sure we round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So I'm like really going to underline that extra to make sure that I don't forget that. All right, bring that out. See how now it really pops out to my attention when I go to put my answer there. Okay, so $3,287 divided by 12 equal months. Let's see. So we start here. We only have 3 thousands. So we can't put 1,000 into each group because we would need 12 thousands in order to put 1,000 into each group. So we can't put any thousands into each group. So I put a 0 above the thousands place here. You can't put any thousands there. There aren't enough. But what we're going to do now is we're going to combine the thousands and the hundreds. So since every place value as you go to the left is 10 times bigger than the one before it, so as you move from the ones to the tens place, 10 times bigger, 10 times bigger, 10 times bigger, right? So this is 3 thousands, but since it's 10 times bigger than the hundreds, it's 30 hundreds, okay? So using what we know about our place value system, our number system, that's 30 hundredths. So we can just include these together now. We had 30 hundredths plus the 2 more hundreds makes 32 hundredths. So if I had 32 hundredths and I'm breaking them into 12 equal groups, I can put 200 into each group. Because if I put 300 into each group, 3 times 12 is 36 hundredths, and I only have 32. So I can't put 300 into each group, but I can put 200 into each group. So each of these groups can get 200. Okay? Now it's harder to do all these numbers with more groups. So I think from now on, I'm just going to kind of stick to the one circle. But that's what we're doing here, is we're making 12 equal groups out of these number of hundreds. So we had 32 of them. We can only put 200 into each group. So 2 times 12 is 2400. So we still have some hundreds left. Okay, now I can't do 2 minus 4, so you got to borrow. So we have 8 hundreds left, but we can't go ahead and put one into each group because there's 12 groups. And if we put only 800 there, then we wouldn't have equal groups. And like we said from the problem, they need to all be equal because she spent the same amount of money every month. Okay? So now we're going to include the tens with the hundreds. So we had 8 hundreds left, and now we have 8 tens, or 88 tens. So if we have 88 tens, how many of them can we put into those 12 groups? So 12 times what gets us closest to 88? Sometimes you're going to have to guess and check with these. 12 times 6 is 72. 12 times 7 is 84. So let me check that real quick. 12 times 7 is 84. So we could put 70 into each of these groups. To save time, I'm just going to put it into that group. Okay, so 70. So 7 times 12 is 84. Then we have 4 tens left. So we could put 270 into each of these groups so far. Now we still have 4 tens that are left. So we're going to combine those with the ones, and we're going to call that 47 ones. If I had 47 ones, and I was going to put them into 12 equal groups, 12 times 4 is 48, and we don't have 48. We only have 47, so we can't put 4 into each group. We can only put 3 into each group. Okay? 3 times 12 is 36, so when we subtract, we have 11 left, and since that's less than our divisor, that is okay to be our remainder. Our remainder should never be equal to or greater than our divisor, because if it was 12, we could have put one more into each group, right? But since it's only 11, that means we couldn't put them all into each group, because then this last group wouldn't have one. So the remainder becomes our numerator, and the divisor, the number we divided by, becomes our denominator, okay? But the tricky part here is we have to round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So this gets a little bit harder. Ooh. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to forget about this right now. We're going to put a decimal point right here, because that's the ones place. So after the ones place goes the decimal point. And we're going to put a 0 because there's 0 tenths. And we're going to try to bring this down, and we're going to continue the division until we get to the hundredths place. Okay? So now we have 110 tenths. If we had 110 tenths, how many tenths could we put into those 12 groups? Okay, so we already know that 12 times 7 is 94. So let's do 12 times 9 is 108. So that's perfect because it's less than the 110. So we have 9 in the tenths place. Sorry, I scribbled that out. 9 in the tenths place. 9 times 12 is 108. So we still have a remainder of 2. We're going to put a 0 in the hundredths place. Sorry, this got a little bit complicated pretty quickly. But you guys are doing a good job. This is probably something that you haven't done. Only a few of my kids have done this, where we're going to move now past the ones place. We're actually going to continue this as a decimal. So far we have 273 and 9 tenths. We're going to put 0.9 into that circle too. Now we're going to see how many hundredths we can put. So if we had 20 hundredths, we can only put 1 into each group. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract, we have 8. We have one more place. We're going to go to the thousandths here. Sorry that I ran out of space. This is something that your teachers are going to probably need to slow down and help you with, and I will help the UMass kids with this. Okay, now we have 80,000. So all we did, guys, was after we have divided the 3,287, we got 273. But since we have to round it to the nearest hundredth, we're going to have to keep going to the decimal point. So we're finding out exactly, we could have written it as 11/12 as a fraction, but this wants us to write it as a decimal to the nearest hundredth. So what we're going to have to do is find out how many tenths, how many hundredths, and we need to find out how many thousandths. That way we can round it to the nearest hundredth. So this is the last step. We're almost done. If we had 80 thousandths and we're putting them into 12 equal groups, let's see, 12 times 7 we said was 84, so it's going to have to be 6. So 6 times 12 is 72, and we have a little bit of a remainder. We have a remainder of 8. But at this point, we can write our final answer. So let me just write this out. 273.916. 273.916, or 273 and 916 thousandths. We are rounding that to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to look to the thousandths place. We're going to look to the right of the place we're trying to round to, which is the hundredths place. If it's 5 or more, that means that this is going to round up to the next number. Because we're basically seeing, is the answer closer to 273 and 91 hundredths? Or is it closer to 273 and 92 hundredths, right? Which hundredth is it closer to? This one that it's at or the next one? And since this is more than 5, that means it's more than halfway towards the next hundredth. So the final answer has to round up to 273.92. And that is the answer. That was tricky. 273.92 is the final answer because we had to round to the nearest hundredth. I want to see if the All-Star kids, how well they were able to do with that, because that was really hard. Give yourself some snaps. So nice work. All right, ask your teachers for help. That division got really complicated after we got past the decimal point, because this is something that only a few kids in my class have been able to practice so far. So good job for sticking with us. Good perseverance. If you're still watching this video, it's a long one today, but great job. All right? Ask your teacher, please, for any question. All right, we're going to go through these two quickly. Write 20,406 and 8 hundredths in standard form. So standard form is just using digits the regular way that we write numbers. So 20,000, we put the comma at 1,000, 20,000, 406, 406. At the end is where we put the decimal point, 8 hundredths. So not 8 tenths, so there's 0 tenths. We have to put the 8 in the hundredths place. So 20,406 and 8 hundredths. This is how you write that number in standard form. 20,406 and 8 hundredths. It's got to be exactly like that. Give yourself some snaps if you got that one. Nice work. Last one, write 35,067 and 12 thousandths in word form. So it's 35. So we're going to read every set of these 3 digits is called a period. So since there's only 2 here, we're still just going to read this period, then we say thousand. So 35, then we say thousand at the comma, and we put a comma. 35,000. Then we read the next period, just 67. Then at the decimal point, we say and you're going to read this last period up to the place that it's at. So we read it as 12. And then we're going to say the place that it ends in, which is the thousandths place. Okay, so we have 35,067 and 12 thousandths because it lands in the thousandths place. 35,067 and 12 thousandths. And that's it. Give yourself some snaps. That was a really hard first problem. I'm sure you guys did a great job all the way up to the decimal point, and then you might have gotten a little bit confused there. So if you did, no worries. Really good work. Good perseverance. I realized that I was really tight on room here, so I apologize with that. And that's something that your teachers are going to have to help you with. So please ask for help or ask me for help if you're in my class, and we will work through that. All right? And that's it. Hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you later.